together. Okay. So I think I just want to tell you the agenda today. So today we're gonna continue with what from what we left last time, and continue on to cover more basics and more foundations. And this kind of knowledge and skills are quite useful for your group presentations when you present the war events such as .com, and you try to link that to the exchange rate. So our focus for this couple of weeks will be on the exchange rate itself. So I think it's quite useful to give you some preliminary, foundations for this type of knowledge in this domain. Okay, and then normally I would just try to connect to the previous class and go from there. So last time we basically have talked about some knowledge about this kind of global village perspective where everything is connected together, right? And then we sort of move on to talk about the different events that has been happening over the past decade or something, okay? And then we talk about those events and just tell you that we're gonna work on some of events in our group presentations, okay? So that's basically about that, and I think we cover, for example, like we talked about back in 1994, we have Mexican debt crisis, and then in 97 we have Southeast Asian financial crisis, and 98 we have Russian currency crisis, right? So you already see some of the topics that you're gonna be working on, and we are trying to connect the dots, right? And to have a complete picture on this perspective on what's happening in the past decade or 2 decades or so, okay? And then in 1999, we have Brazilian currency crisis. I think some of you are working on this. And in 2000, we have the US .com bubble crisis, right? So so basically, for this kind of historical overview, it's just to tell you that the crisis, the frequency is actually the occurrence of that is more frequent than we anticipate. And then we try to review some of those crises, try to get some lesson from that. So hopefully when the similar crisis happen again, we'll be able to anticipate the direction and also the magnitude of that event, okay? And that's why I assigned like the 4 historical events to each group of 4, and then hopefully you can all divide the work and then just conquer the task all together collectively. Okay? And hopefully by doing this kind of exercise, we will have better idea about the source, the causes of the event, and also what will be the economic consequence of the event itself, okay? So that's what we basically talked about last time, and then other than that, we sort of move on to the foreign exchange markets topic, in which we will try to address some of the issues in this domain, such as the definition of the foreign exchange markets, and then what does it mean to have a currency appreciated, depreciated, and how do you measure the general value of the currency, and what would be the foreign exchange arbitrage, right? Arbitrage means like the opportunity for you to profit, using some sort of strategies, right? To profit from the foreign exchange market or the capital market in general. And then we will try to address what will be the purchasing power parity. I think we will hit that today into this session. Okay. So last time it was great to have the brief overview with you, so you have better understanding of what are the components in the foreign exchange market, including the definition of the foreign exchange reserve, right? I remember we have quite a good discussion of that, and also including the component of that, and then why does it accumulate the wealth over time, right? And then we talk about the principles for the use of foreign exchange reserves. And then we have talked about different currencies, right? That's been predominantly used in the world, in today's world. And then we show that for the US dollars, it's still the number one, despite the influence of that has been diminished a little bit over time, from 2000 to 2023. Right? And then we have talked about the foreign exchange reserve in Taiwan case, and we can see that in the export-oriented emerging market like Taiwan, it tried to accumulate wealth through the more export. And then when Taiwan has more export, then you accumulate the foreign exchange reserve, okay? And over time, and that's why we can see the number has been keep going up. And the only time it slowed down is when the crisis happened, such as the financial crisis of 2008 in the U.S. And then we have talked about the top 10 countries, right, with the largest foreign exchange reserve. That was leading by China, Japan, and Switzerland, right? And then we have talked about what are the components of international reserve, and also along with the definition of it. And then we have talked about what are the currencies that we commonly see in the foreign exchange markets, and what are the symbols for each, right? For example, like the US dollar, then we'll use USD. For the euro, we'll use the EUR, and for Japanese yen, we'll use the JP1. Okay, so those for short. So then next time when you see those kind of acronyms, then you can easily associate that with a particular currency. For example, when we talk about the GBP, that means the Great Britain pound, right? So, and we also mentioned that the exchange rate itself is more like a price, okay? But it's not a price that we use in the capital market or in the house markets. It's actually the price when we use in the foreign exchange, when we observe two currencies or more, and how high. Welcome. You have a seat. We just get started. And then so it will be the exchange ratio between two currencies in a transaction, right? And then we also mentioned that if you only have one nation, one country, then you cannot have exchange rate. The exchange rate need to come from two currencies. Okay? And then we talk about foreign exchange markets. The definition of that is a system where the private banks, the foreign exchange dealers and brokers, they get together and they do the trade, right? And then they purchase or they sell the foreign exchange or another nation's currency. And then we talk about the spot markets. That's when you try to settle a transaction immediately, either by sale or purchase or an asset. So in that case, then you will need a quote, right, from someone in that market. And so that market is called a spot market, and then you will get the spot quote, okay? And then we also talk about the definition of foreign exchange markets, right? And it was a very good, interesting discussion. And then we move on to talk about the direct quotes and indirect quotes, and we basically mentioned that direct quote is more commonly used because most of the time we are talking about 1 unit of US dollars in exchange for a certain amount of the new Taiwan dollar, right? That's an example of direct quotes. And because the number seems to be in the range of 30 to 32, so it's kind of easy to remember. Whereas the indirect quote is just it's just 1 divided by the direct quote. And normally you will have something like a 0.01, like in decimal place. And because it's more difficult to memorize or to remember, so that's why, despite its existence, but indirect quote is less commonly used compared to the direct quotes. And then we mentioned the direct quote is the home price, is a home currency price, such as New Taiwan dollar of the foreign currency, such as the U.S. Dollar. Right? So we talk about the definition of that, and then we also talk about the graph of drawing the direct quotes and also the indirect quotes. So they are like the mirror image, right? One is reflection of the other. And then we also talk about the renminbi, the Chinese yen, which is as an example to show how it had its status changed over time and how it evolved over time. And for example, we mentioned before it was less commonly used. So in the ranking, it was at the 35th, and then nowadays it has risen to the 5th place. And nowadays it has expanded to more than 40 markets that has used the renminbi as an asset in their foreign exchange reserve. And then we also have talked about the examples, right? How do we do the conversion of the currency from one currency to the other? For example, we start with the exchange rate between the U.S. dollars and Japanese yen, right? And we talk about the products, right, from Japan, right? And what will be the cost of that in the Japanese yen, and how do we do the conversion into the U.S. dollars, right? And then we also talk about the depreciation. What does it mean? And we mentioned it's a decrease in the value of currency relative to another currency, right? And then we show an example that if you have the 1 euro to 1 US dollar, and that ratio has been changed or increased to 1.2. That actually means that the US dollar has depreciated, whereas the euro has appreciated, right? Because it now takes $1.2 to buy 1 euro, so the dollar will become less valuable, right? And by the contrast, we talk about the definition of appreciation, which refers to an increase in the value of a currency relative to another currency. And then we also show the example that if you have the number from 1 and decrease to 0.9, actually, and with the euro as the denominator of the ratio, it means that it now takes only 0.9 US dollars to purchase 1 euro, so that the US dollar becomes more valuable than before, right? And then, so yeah, we have done some examples of that, and then to define the depreciation and appreciation. Right? And other than that, we try to talk about the magnitude of the direction, the magnitude of the appreciation or the depreciation, right? So to know the depreciation and appreciation is the most basic idea, right? To know the direction of the movement of the exchange rate, right? The second thing is we care about the magnitude, right? And then we show that how to calculate, how to compute the magnitude of it, right? So, for example, we talk about one example that if the direct quote has been between the New Taiwan dollar versus the US dollar has been increased from 30 to 34, right? What does it mean, right? And we know that for the New Taiwan dollar, right, it means what? It means depreciated, right? Because 1 unit of US dollar can purchase more or convert it into more New Taiwan dollar, right? So that's the first dimension, the direction of it, right? And then the second thing is to talk about the magnitude of the change in the percentage formats, right? And we talk about that if we want to focus on the New Taiwan dollar, right, which is the numerator of the direct quote, then we have to use the 30 minus 34 divided by 34 times 100. Then we will get minus 11%. Specifically minus 11.76%. And why are we doing this kind of calculation is because, as the textbook indicates, right? When you do the, the exchange rate, when you try to focus on the numerator, right? Then you have to derive these kind of ratios, so it becomes the exchange rate at the t equals to 0 minus the exchange rate of the t equal to 1. So you have the former exchange rate minus the later exchange rate divided by the later exchange rate to derive the impact of the exchange changes, right? For the numerator. In our case, would be the New Taiwan dollar, right? Okay. So are you all familiar with the calculation now? Good. And then if you want to know about the change for the USD, the US dollars, right? So in this case, we know the USD in the direct quote, right? The USD is the denominator, right? So if you want to know about denominator, then we just use the 34 minus 30 divided by 30 times 100, right? And then we will get 13%. Okay. So basically, when you are using a direct quote, if you are focusing on the denominator, just use the subsequent exchange ratio minus the previous exchange ratio divided by the previous exchange ratio, then you can obtain that. Whereas when you are trying to focus on the numerator itself, then you need to kind of you use a slightly different version of the formula itself, and the formula of using the former exchange rate minus the subsequent exchange rate divided by subsequent exchange rates, because this kind of derivative formula over here. Good. So are you all okay with the formula? Okay with how to do the math? Good. All right. And then, as we mentioned earlier, that despite they are two different approaches to calculate the US dollar impact or the New Taiwan dollar impact. The difference between those two are quite small. So if you are a small investor, you don't really, or if you just want to go to the neighboring countries, just for travel, then you don't really, the difference will not impact you a lot. But then if you work for investment banks and then you are having the large lump sum principal, then those small decimals, it becomes really large if you have, in that case, okay? So just be careful, just watch out for that. And then here I just want to show you one more time. Then I will give you some questions for you to do some calculation yourself, right? And then you can participate in the event and just tell me what will be your answer, okay? So let's say if we are using a direct quote and the number has been going from 30, right, to 33, right? And then the denominator is a USD, US dollar, and then whereas the numerator is the New Taiwan dollar, right? So if you want to know about the percentage change for the USD, then we just have to take the 33 minus 30 divided by 30, then we will get 10%, right? So it just means it's the 10% appreciation for the US dollar, okay? So in this calculation, you know two things: direction. Does the US dollar appreciate or depreciate? And the second thing is how big. What's the in terms of percentage change? Is that appreciation for the US dollar? Okay. And then if you want to talk about, and in our direct quote example, right, the US dollar is the denominator, right? So so by contrast, if you want to focus on the numerator, which is the New Taiwan dollar in our direct quote, then your calculation is first of all identifying whether the New Taiwan dollar has appreciated or depreciated, right? Then we know because the number has been going increased from 30 to 33. So now it means that right now it takes 1 unit of US dollar can exchange for more New Taiwan dollar. So of course the New Taiwan dollar depreciate. So you know the direction of that, right? And then the second thing is that you have to use the 30 minus 33 divided by 33, right? The formula that we have used before. Then you can derive the outcome, or you can compute the outcome to be minus 9.09%. Okay, so if you have a calculator with you, or you can use your iPhone, just double check. If you can get 10% and get minus 9.09% on your device. It's a simple calculation. Can you find did you follow this? Can you find this number? Can you find this number?
Yes, it's what you explained about the appreciation
Yeah.
of the US dollar.
Yeah.
So you just have to the calculation is right there, like 33 minus 30 divided by 30,
Yes.
and 10% of appreciation of this is the appreciation of the US dollar.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you follow this?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then for the New Taiwan dollar, so does the New Taiwan dollar depreciate or appreciate?
Depreciate.
Depreciate,
Yeah.
right? And the reason because
I don't know.
you don't know.
Because it's lower. US dollar is stronger than Taiwanese dollar.
Yes, and because where did you get that information?
I don't know. I just know this.
Okay, maybe you just heard I said it, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the reason is because if you have the exchange rate change from 30 to 33, so it means before 1 unit of US dollars can be converted into 30 units of New Taiwan dollars, right? Now it can be converted into more, right? So that means the USD is stronger and the New Taiwan dollar is weaker. So that's why the New Taiwan dollar depreciated. Yeah, make sense? Yeah. Okay. Maybe just different terminology, strong, weaker, but appreciate versus the depreciate. Okay. Okay. And then so you're okay with this. And then we mentioned that in the direct quote, because our numerator is the New Taiwan dollar, right? So not only we care about the percentage change of the USD, right, the US dollar, we also care about the change, percentage change for the New Taiwan dollar, right? And for us to calculate this number, then we need to use 30 minus 33 divided by 33. Okay, so it's a different formula. And we will get a minus. So this will indicate the New Taiwan dollar depreciate. Okay, and the reason we do this formula is because the original formula is like this. And when we try to derive this, it becomes this formula. So we have to use the time equals 0 minus time equals to 1 divided by time equal to 1 exchange rate. Okay, and that's why we have to, in that case, we have to use 30. So in this case, it becomes 30 minus 33 divided by 33. So we'll get minus 9.09%. So maybe on your Excel, you can try that to see if you can get this number, because we will have some exercise for you to do. Okay. So for the rest of you, maybe you can try to see if you can get 10%, minus 9% on your device, either iPhone, iPad, Excel, whatever. It's good exercise. If you're gonna work for, in a foreign exchange department of the multinational banks, investment bankers, yeah, those small decimal places can convert into millions of dollars. And of course, individually, we don't have very much money, right? So we probably don't use that, right? Yeah. Okay, so is everyone good with these two formulas? The direction and magnitude for the USD and also for the Newton number. Okay? So later we're gonna change the USD to something else, like a British, British pounds, or maybe change the Newton dollar to Japanese yen. But the idea is the same. The formula will be the same. Okay? So you just have to remember which one are you talking about. In this case, you're talking about denominator, and in this case, you're talking about numerator. And for the denominator, just use the later minus the former, right? And for the numerator, use the former minus the subsequent. Okay? All right, so let's keep going. And then, so basically that was a review of our last class material. We talked about this content last time, right? And there was quite a good discussion. Right? And then other than that, okay. So other than that, I think we briefly talked about this example, like the exchange rate between the USD and Mexico peso, right? And then we say we have exchange rate on Monday and Tuesday, right? And then the number going from 11.3855 to 11.1245, right? The next day. So in this case, we have to identify direction, and then subsequently we have to identify the magnitude of the change. So in this case, we actually see that Mexico peso has appreciated, right? And the reason being that when you try to use the USD, right, as the basis, so 1 unit of USD was converted to the 11.38 Mexican peso, right? Now the next day it converted into fewer units of the Mexican peso, right? So it means the USD becomes depreciated, right? Or weaker, right? In another layman's term, right? And so in the other word, the Mexican peso has appreciated, right? Because it now takes fewer Mexican pesos to purchase each dollar, right? So, and then the second dimension is talk about percentage change, right? So let's say if you want to know about the change for the USD, right? So in this case, the USD is the denominator, right? So we just have to take this number minus this number divided by this number. So we can get minus 2.29%. Is that clear? Yeah. So it's the application of what we just learned a couple minutes ago, right? And it's a continuation from our last class content. So if you are interested in the amount of the change for the Mexican, right? So in this case, we are looking at the numerator itself, right? So in this case, our calculation will becomes that 11.3855 minus 11.12, right? And divided by 11.12, right? In this case, we get 2.35%. Okay, is it clear to everyone? Are you okay with this? Yeah, good. All right. Hold on a second. Oh, I put the exercise in the newer version of the slide, which I didn't update here. Okay, just give me a second, okay? All right. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So we are on page. Okay, so this is the new version of the PowerPoint slide, right? Using the example for the USD and Mexican peso, right? So before that, we talked about these kind of changes, right, in the exchange rate for 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday, right? And then we talk about for the change will actually result for the Mexican peso to appreciate and for the USD to depreciate, right? So then we talk about the magnitude of that, right? So I just put those two together so you can see the comparison for the between the formulas and the comparison between the numbers. Or I think it's more clear that way. So for the amount of the USD, right? And in our case, our USD is the denominator of the exchange rate ratio. So we will have to use this formula. So we'll use 11.12 minus 11.38, right? Divided by the same number. Then we will have minus 2.29%, right? And then that's what we did before I do the reset up, right? And then I trust that you have found this number, right? And then if we are concerned about the Mexican peso, right? So we'll know in this case, the direction of that is that the Mexican peso has appreciated against the USD, right? Because the ratio goes down, right? In a direct quote, whereas the Mexican peso is the numerator. And for us to do the percentage change, then we just have to use 11.38 minus 11.12 divided by the same number, then we can get 2.35%. Good. And those two numbers were from here. Okay. So are you okay with this exercise? Good. Welcome to the seats. All right, so that's how it works. So now we're gonna talk about one example, okay? And I have prepared some examples for you to work on, okay? So now, let's say we want to, we use the percentage change formula to calculate the amount of appreciation or depreciation for the Great British Pound, right? And the example is that suppose that on Monday, the New Taiwan dollar, the TWN, traded at a 39 number, whereas on the Tuesday, they traded at the figure at 40, right? So in this case, we see that the New Taiwan dollar has appreciated or depreciated? Appreciated, right? Because 1 unit of the Great British Pound can be converted into more unit of the New Taiwan dollar, right? So the New Taiwan becomes weaker, becomes depreciated, right? And then by contrast, the Great British Pound has appreciated, right? Okay. So the question now is for you to try to compute what would be the percentage change for the Great British Pound, and also the percentage change for the New Taiwan dollar. So that's the application of the knowledge we have acquired in a couple minutes ago. So first of all, try to compute the percentage change for the Great British pound? Just tell me a number.
Appreciation is 1.98.
1.98? Okay. That's very close. And I think that's correct. Okay. 1.99 to be exact. I think I tried to round it up. Okay. So that's good. Thank you very much for your participation. So so this is in this case, right? We try to focus on the Great British pound. Then we should take 40 minus 39 divided by 39 times 100. Then we should get 1.99%. That's correct. And then if we were interested in the New Taiwan dollar, how do we do the math? And what will be the number? Yes. So I hear the correct response. So we'll get minus 1.91%. And the formula is that, or the math is that you take the 39 minus 40 divided by 40. Okay? So that shows you how big is the depreciation for the New Taiwan dollar. Good. Okay? Alright, so I also prepared another one, example. So I just try to, replace with different currencies, right? So it's more fun, right? So the second example is that we use the percent change formula to calculate the amount of appreciation or depreciation for the New Taiwan dollar. So let's suppose on Monday, the Japanese yen, the JPY, right? And this is also, the exercise also meant for you to kind of, get to the symbols a little bit. So next time when you see that, you can easily associate with Japanese, okay? So let's say it's traded at the figure 4.52, right? And our denominator is per unit of New Taiwan dollar, right? And on the next day, the figure changed to 4.38, right? So in our case, for the Japanese yen, is it going up or is it going down? Is it stronger or is it weaker for the Japanese yen?
The Japanese yen
Becomes weaker, right? Okay. It becomes weaker because
it's less stronger than it's 4.38 and not 4.52.
so when the number changed from 4.52 and your exchange ratio has the New Taiwan dollar as a denominator, so you think this, in this case, Japanese yen has become weaker?
No, it's I think when it's no, it becomes stronger.
Become stronger, right? And then the reason is, what's the logic?
Is because it was more. It was less to for the yen to Taiwan dollar.
Okay, so in the other word, 1 unit of New Taiwan can be exchanged for fewer units of Japanese yen.
Yeah.
Okay, so that make it make the Japanese yen stronger, right? Okay, so that's why the Japanese yen has appreciated, right? Because it now takes fewer Japanese yen to purchase each unit of New Taiwan dollar, and then the New Taiwan dollar has depreciated. Right? So now, so we're gonna work on the math again. So tell me the percentage change for the New Taiwan dollar, and also for the Japanese yen.
3%.
Yes. What will be your number? 3.1. Good. And what will be your number for the Japanese yen? Okay. Do you all compare? You'll find a similar number? Yes. Okay, good. So you know how to do the math, right? So for the New Taiwan dollar, right? So as the denominator, then we take a 4.38 minus 4.52 divided by the same number. Then we should have, as Stephanie pointed out, minus 3.1%, right? And then if you want to focus on the Japanese yen, which is our numerator of that exchange ratio, then we will take 4.52 minus 4.38 divided by the same number, then we will get the positive 3.2%. Good? Okay. So we have done some exercise with the numbers. So you now know how to calculate and also to identify the direction of the change or the movement of the exchange rate and also the magnitude in terms of percentage of that change.